So this song is our latest one that came out, and it's called A.D.D. Hopefully you've heard it. And if not, you definitely will today. It's got this very like dark, heavy sound to it, and which is kind of funny because it didn't always have that. So that's kind of our big moment, like the impactful chorus hitting. But it didn't always sound like this, and I'm not going to play the old version that it once upon a time sounded like, but it was like, this lyric was basically on like a disco funk song almost, and which is really hard to imagine, and the only people that can even comprehend that are the ones that heard the old version of it. But I'm trying to erase that from my brain. I played it for a friend of mine, and he was like, you know, hey man, this is a really cool lyric, but like you don't make music like this. This sounds like a Bruno Mars song or something. Like, why are you doing this? And I was like, you know, that's a really good point. And he had heard our other song Lights Out at the time. And so he said, why don't you do an instrumental like that instead and just sort of like cannibalize the lyric? And that's what we ended up doing. So yeah, let's kind of start at the beginning with the intro. So really only two things there, and I had to spend a lot of time on this 808 because it's kind of a core of the song. Like the beat has sections where it's just that, right? It needs to be able to sustain itself with just that. So pardon my my messy session here. Sometimes I come back to these and I don't even remember where everything is. All right, this is what I was doing. I don't even know what the track count in this session is, and I'll have to go check in a little bit. But this is my 808. So you'll notice when I solo just the 808, it's actually missing a lot of that attack that the kick brings into it. And a lot of that smack is actually the kick drum. If you're just playing the bass, it's a little more just focused on being a bass rather than a drum at all. But I think this was a splice sample, and I think it was sort of the foundation of the beat. Like I kind of knew what I wanted to do when I heard it for the first time. But when I first got it, it sounded like this. And I don't think I did very much to it. It looks like I threw it through neutrons, just doing like a little bit of saturation in the mid-range, just because like a big problem that I had with this was it wouldn't always translate well on speaker systems that didn't have good bass response. And that's kind of a recurring theme with stuff that I've produced before. So, you know, but then yeah, it looks like I was just boosting a little bit more mid-range to try and get that to come across. And a little bit of, there's this side chain. I think that's what's going on. It doesn't even look like it's doing anything here. Oh, maybe because it's, huh. I don't actually know what this is doing. Sometimes like I just put stuff on there and then I never take it off, you know, because I don't need to. But honestly, this sample was so good from the start that I really didn't have to do very much to it. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much it. But I don't really like to use 808 patterns or drum patterns super often. I prefer taking single hits and cutting them up. And so I kind of like the stuff like this where it would hit super fast. And there's so many fucking drums on this song, I don't even know where it would be. I say as I go ahead and look for it. Snap One, creative name. Look at that. I don't even think I did anything to it. That's just a straight up splice sample. Sounds good. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? That's kind of the moral of the story. You got me losing track of time. Breaking my neck every time you pass. The way you move should be a crime. Still keeping it really simple for this first part. We'll go into the vocals in a second. Okay, so with none of this stuff, completely raw, this is what the vocal sounds like. You got a body like an hourglass, but you got me losing track of time. Like complete shit. Terribly boomy. I did track that on a good mic and preamp. I just like don't think like this room isn't treated, and I don't know. Clearly it needed some EQ on the way in or something, because that sounds very boomy to me. But let's kind of break down what we were doing here. So first, this is just auto-tune, but I don't really like main brand auto tune as much, the Antares brand. I like this Waves tune because it gives you I get a bit more control, I feel like, than auto tune. You can like manually play the piano and use that as a guide to tell the vocal what notes you want it to hit. And you've just got a lot of like micromanagements that you can do here to make it feel less computerized and like less perfect, and to humanize it a little more. It looks like I was hitting it pretty hard here. But also like how easy the scale customization is, because like I'm never, with my vocal melodies, I'm almost never able to just select a key and have it just function perfectly in that key. Like there's always like a blue note or something weird like that. Oh, Lays, you use Waves Tune as well? Dude, Waves Tune is the shit. That's the way to go. But yeah, so a little bit of tuning, then we get in here into Virtual Mix Rack, and it looks like I was doing a lot. Jesus. Okay. You got a body like an hourglass. So we bypass this. You got a body like an hourglass. Oh yeah, that's doing a good bit for sure. So this is a microphone simulator. This is a channel simulator. This is like another channel simulator with some saturation. I usually don't use this thing. It's one of their like vibe tools. They don't even really tell you exactly what it does. They're just like, oh, it just makes it saucy or whatever. But I think it came with the preset. Yeah, it looks like I was using this Airy Vocal preset. So I guess that's why that's on here. This is a distressor clone, and I don't actually know how much it's compressing right now. Let's see. A good little bit. This thing kind of crushes the vocal down and slams it a little bit. A little bit of EQ, and then probably, honestly, not as much de-essing as I was expecting, but this is kind of my go-to de-esser right now. I think it's a model of a DBX hardware unit that I don't remember the name of, but I feel like a lot of de-essers can sound lispy or harsh, and this one for me right now is my pick for something that I feel like I can crank it pretty hard and not like notice that all of a sudden my vocalist sounds like Mike Tyson out of nowhere. So let's see, then we're doing a little bit of sculpt. This is like an EQ that works in real time. So for people that haven't seen something like this before, this is in real time, like ducking and scooping and shaping the EQ, the frequency spectrum of my track. So it's adding more mid-range in real time when it feels it needs more of it. It's ducking low when it feels it needs less of it. And I only use it for certain vocals because it can sound very unnatural if you overdo it, you know? This is like manual EQ, just rolling off a lot of that boomy. Getting rid of some of that. Light compression here. I never use the compression too much in Neutron because I always want to use something with a little more sauce. That's doing something. Yeah, so I think this is making the top end a little crispier and a little more sizzly. But Neutron, I sort of just use for the initial shaping. It never does too much heavy lifting. But it's a great all-in-one tool. I'm a big fan of the isotope stuff. Over even, like, I won't say over because I don't have FabFilter because I'm not rich. But looks like this is doing mouth declick. Yeah, this was like the type of vocal where I was, and I'm not going to simulate it right now because it'd be super annoying, but I was like this close to the microphone. And so it caught a lot of little mouth noises and clicks that were hard to remove or gate out. So this is just something that like uses advanced machine learning to go in and listen to stuff that just sounds like those frequencies and take them out. And then this guy here is probably what's doing the most noticeable change to the vocal. So if you take this off, you got a body like an hourglass. Right, that's pretty different from. You got a body like an hourglass. So I think this was a Will Harrington suggestion, if I remember correctly, and it looks like that's off right now. When does it come on? So this little red dot means this switches on at some point, but I don't remember what this thing is. I don't know if that's important. Right? What's really doing it is this guy right here, this slap back kind of thing. So what it actually does is it's a delay, but it doesn't just delay the signal. It delays it, and then it pushes it out super wide. And slightly, I think, has uneven left and right play in the delay. So it's got, I think they call it like Radio Vox Spreader is the preset in Echo Boy. Let's see. Yeah, or yeah, Radio Vox spread. This thing sounds awesome. And this is another shout out to Will Harrington for showing me this preset because I had not seen this one. It's what like completes that kind of eerie sound to the vocal. So yeah, all in all, we listened to all of this stuff off. Like nothing, does not fit in, no sauce at all. And then that feels so much better. Like, so small moves, but huge impact on the vocal, I feel like. Yeah, for sure, bro. Okay, let's see. What's the next fun thing? Oh, this percussion. All right, so this was like another core element of the song where this was like, you know, one of the first things that got put on it and made the beat to me. And I'm trying to remember. Someone told me at some point when they were hearing this, they were like, I don't know, it's too distracting. And I was like, no, dude, that's fine. I'll be distracted by it. I don't care. Yeah, custom perk, it looks like. So this was some splice sample that I don't even think was in this time signature, and I chopped the hell out of it. Almost to like sidechain it so it never hits on the downbeats, but instead of side chaining it, I just like chopped out the pieces that I didn't want there, basically. But yeah, super fun. I love that. I really don't even think I was doing too much to it. Again, when you have a good sound. Oh, I was just sort of making it telephony. So this is like, I'm losing all these lows. There's nothing even down there. I think I was just sort of like worried about any bullshit down here that we didn't want, you know, clogging up the low end. But this was mainly just chopping rather than effects or anything crazy like that. But that's one of my favorite parts of the song, honestly. Let's see what's next. Oh, that's in diverse too. So we're gonna go to chorus 1. You've got me A.D.D. I can't be stealing, I'm not functioning. Business direction, please don't let me be. You got me going, you got me going. A.D.D. The biggest thing that stands out to me on chorus 1 got to be this brass, and this is one of my like secret weapons. It's printed out now, but it's actually a from a contact library called Evolution Atlantica, and like I haven't really met other people that know about it, so I guess, you know, go steal it and use it as secret sauce. But the whole thing is like noises that you would hear in like Inception. Like it's, you know, like all of these, it's a cinematic scoring thing. But I found this brass, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say I used it on like 2 songs in a row. So I think the next song that comes out might have this same brass on it. But this thing is absolutely dope. It's a monster, and it sounds great on any like epic type rock thing that you put it on. There's some very tiny clicks in there that I forgot to remove. But if you hear it ducking, that's just like extensive side chaining that I'm doing here, because it's so big that it would kind of get in the way of the kick and the snare. And so I had to do a little bit of ducking on it, and that's still triggering even though you can't hear the kick and the snare. But again, another thing that like, if your core pieces are such awesome samples, you usually have to do the least manipulation on them in some respects. That's never true for my like chorus vocals, in which I always overdo it. But this brass sounds dope, and you don't have to do very much to it. I'm just getting it out of the way of other things, and then a little mid boost here and a little high boost here. But other than that, I think, what is this? This is just, oh yeah, I was like worried that it was phasing with something. So if this is like nerd shit to fix that, but I don't even think it's really doing anything, honestly. I think I improved the phase correlation by like 2%, it said. But yeah, that shit is dope. I love it. The drums I am pretty fucking proud of for the chorus. these may be my favorite drums that I've ever programmed. There you go. Kind of want to sample my own beat for another song, honestly, because that's dope. I'm just super proud of that. So this is a combination of samples and then faked real drums. You can hear the quote unquote real drums here. And they kind of intentionally sound bad and trashy. They're kind of overblown and exploded a little bit and blown out. And I was trying to copy the sound of that AWOL Nation song Sail and that kind of music, where like I was reading that for the drums on that song, the guy tracked it with like one microphone or something and just overcompressed the shit out of it. And it's like very badly tracked to the point it sounds very, you know, distorted and blown out. But then if you layer that with some samples, it has this massive feeling to it. So this on its own is a cool beat and fun, but when you throw like a fat kick splice sample on it, that really ties it all together. I just love that beat though. I'm so happy with those drums. I'm so happy with the way that they came out. If I turn this back on, we hear just the instrumental of the chorus. I kind of wish there was more to go into, but it's actually pretty simple, I feel like. So there's really not all of that much more to go into. It just hits, you know? It just feels really good. Let's see what the synth is doing. So, I mean, the synth is really just the brass and that pad. But yeah, instrumentally speaking, relatively simple chorus. Now, the vocals were a little more complex to get functioning the way that I wanted them. A.D.D, I can't be still and I'm not functioning. Please don't let me. So these vocals were a very unnatural tone for me. It's at the top of even my falsetto range. And yet another of many shout outs to Will Harrington for helping me track these, because he was the one engineering while I was doing these, and he was very, very helpful. And we got a cool tone that is not something that I'm normally capable of doing. Let's see if I get an error if I unfreeze this. So this session is very big, and I have too many plugins and things running at once to have all of them active. So for anybody that works in audio and in a DAW, you know about freezing, which is where you sort of like temporarily render something so that the computer doesn't have to process it in real time anymore. But so I can't unfreeze everything at the same time. If I unfreeze too many things, this session starts freaking out and crashing because it can't hold everything at the same time. But I think I can get away with this lead vocal soloed for now. You've got me A.D.D, I can't be still and I'm not functioning. Misdirection, please don't let me be. This has a lot of shit on it. This probably has more shit on it than anything else in the song. And it looks like everything is on. Usually when I look at these, there's like one thing that I tried and didn't like. I can't be still and I'm not functioning. Again, kind of sounds like shit in comparison, you know. So that's more Waves tune. This is Neutron. Oh, and this is kind of crazy Neutron, right? Normally I wouldn't do an EQ curve like this. Maybe what we're going to do is sort of mute everything and then just turn it on one at a time so you can see the effect that it's having, right? So just the tuning. You've got me A.D.D. Then we do this. You've got me A.D.D. So you'll notice that cuts out like all of that low, mid, all of this like, you know, boxy down here stuff and just gets it in the telephony kind of higher range. And that makes a big difference to me. You've got me A.D.D. Terrible. Already loads better. Then we're going into an LA2A for some compression. A lot of compression. So it looks like it's turning it down by about 10 decibels at its peaks. I usually don't reach for this because I'm usually doing stuff that's more aggressive or at least I'll put the more aggressive thing first. So for this to do so much heavy lifting is a little different than what I normally do. But then here I'm going into a 76, so this is definitely more aggressive compression. Let's see how much. Oh my God. I guess that's doing like 20 decibels of compression. So a combined like 30 decibels of compression or something like that, and then just turning it all the way back up. But that's kind of the sound it needed. Like, it needs to sound like it's smashed against the wall right in front of you. Sorry if I just hit the mic. But yeah, both of those. If you turn them off, you kind of just lose that in-your-face presence when you don't have these. And I know it's like quieter now too. That's because this other stuff that I haven't turned back on yet is going to turn it back up. So next we went into this guy, which is my 610 preamp. I have the real version of this that's running this mic through it right now because I loved this plugin so much that I had to get my hands on the real version. But for convenience's sake, when I need to use a lot of them, I'll still use the fake version, the plugin. But this thing sort of isn't as popular as I feel it deserves, to be honest. It's really, really warm and pleasing in a way that a lot of other saturators or preamp simulators or anything like that distortion fails to capture. This is one of the warmer software emulation units that I've found. And then the real thing obviously sounds much better, but I like the way it kind of brings up and thickens stuff. Already a big difference from that. But also just in volume, because I'm using this to turn the volume back up after the compression too. And then it looks like we're going into even more compression after that. So if you'll look at this little green over here, you can sort of see like the vocal is just hitting a brick wall where it cannot get past that. Yeah, I just absolutely smashed this thing to pieces. I didn't even remember how much compression that I had done on this, but I'm sure we're at like a combined, 35 to 45 dBs of compression at this point, which is pretty crazy. This is the mag EQ, and it's funny, this, like, all of these are effective on as EQ ranges and knobs, but really the only reason people reach for this thing, I feel like, is this guy right here. The human, span of hearing only goes from like 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz or 20,000 hertz. But this thing lets you adjust frequencies at 40,000 hertz, which doesn't make any sense. But if you do it, it like still has an effect. Like you can almost, you can hear it, but it doesn't sound the same as when you boost 20, which you can hear. This doesn't make any sense. Basically, it's adjusting frequencies that you cannot hear, but somehow you can still tell that there's a difference, because when you do it enough, it still starts to have an effect on the lower ones as well. But they call it the air band. And if I mute it here, and then if I turn it on, I'm not sure how well that's going to come across in the YouTube compression algorithm, but it's a subtle difference where it's like more airy and whispery on top. Then we're going to inflator, which is arguably more compression, although I don't completely understand what this thing does, to be honest with you. It inflates, makes you a balloon. So yeah, like here's off, and then here's on. It's like more pushing, more distortion, more cramming it up against the speaker as hard as it can go. It inflates, right? That's what I said. Next, it looks like we're going to virtual mix rack, but we're not doing the big preset this time, just this same de-esser that I was using on the verse vocal and I'm a big fan of. And then a gate. What is this doing? Oh, this is one thing that I really like about Ableton. Although I think you can do this in other DAWs, but Ableton was the first one where I saw someone do it. So this is a sidechain gate, but it's sidechained to itself. So Sidechaining in audio, if you don't know, is a process where you can have something react according to a different track. So when you're listening to dance music and the bass is going like mwah, 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 that's sidechain compression. And what it's doing is it's turning down the volume in response to the kick drum. Like every time the kick hits, it will turn down the bass for a second. So it's like stealing the audio from something else and using it to affect this other audio. And compression is sort of the effect where that sidechaining is most commonly used. But I like it in gating because you can say a gate controls whether you can hear something or not. It'll like turn it down or mute it. So if you sidechain gate something, you can say this thing only gets to make noise when this other thing makes noise. Or in this case, what's crazy about what they let you do here is you can sidechain it to itself before all of the effects. So it takes a copy of when it was clean and it says the distorted version of me can only play when the clean version of me is playing. And this kind of sounds dumb, but the reason it makes sense is when you do distortion, you start to get floor noise. You start to get just like in the background. If you've ever, turned up a guitar amp too loud or anything like that, you'll just hear background noise. You'll hear a hum. And so this kind of kills that by regulating it according to if it were completely clean. So kind of like a weird nerd trick, but I use this a lot, especially for vocals like this. You've got me A.D.D. I can't be stealing, I'm not functioning. However, this one was so like dirty in between the spots sometimes. Like here, listen to this. You can hear those little like at the end because there's so much distortion and compression. It's just like blasting that little bit of signal afterwards. So even with this gate, I ended up just coming up here and cutting all of these things really short so that there wasn't even any audio to try and slip past the gate afterwards. But yeah, that's a long-winded explanation for what that's doing. It's pretty uninteresting. Here is... So this is doing the same thing as that unit on the verse, the radio spreader, and it's just sort of delay and panning to give it that weird spooky effect. That's just the delay, and then when you hear it with both. Spooky, and if you turn it off, it's hard to hear as much of a difference on this chorus one because like there's so much more going on with the chorus vocal than the verse vocal, but I still feel that it makes a difference. What is this? Oh, this is just delay, so this is just like just doing that in the background basically. Beep, 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 beep. A little more neutron on the end. Jesus Christ. Okay, this is a guide of how not to EQ a vocal. Look at how simple these curves are. I could have definitely made each one of these with like one node, but I used what looks like 12 for some reason. This is like a sign that I was losing my fucking mind near the end stages of a mix and probably should have just stopped mixing because this is stupid as shit. But yeah, that's kind of the combination of what makes the chorus vocals sound the way that they do. But yeah, very unnatural vocal tone for me. But sometimes when you're doing something like that where you know that it's going to be, unnatural, then you can get unnatural with the effects and you're not so much worried about preserving like a realistic sounding vocal in a realistic sounding room or anything like that. I haven't talked about any of my sends that I'm sending to yet, but we'll check those out in a second. But I think that kind of brings me to the background. I can't be stealing, I'm not functioning. So I'm not going to go too in depth on every single one because that would be pretty boring, but I did stack a lot of stuff and then change my mind on a lot of stuff on this. I definitely need to come through and clean. Like this is clearly disabled right now, so whatever it is, I didn't want it. There's always a ton of deactivated stuff in my background vocals, but I think it mainly consists of So those are just the doubles, and I think I used something to, I think I used like vocal line to line them up really, really close with the lead vocal. So that's why they sound a little bit computerized, honestly, is I'm still figuring out how to use vocal line. And it's an art not to overdo it. Sometimes you make them too close and they sound like robotic and weird and phasey. But it is very powerful software, so hopefully I'll use it a little better on the next one. I think I lined these ones a little bit too tight. Not really doing too much on this individual bus, I guess. Here's a preset from Slate. Just saturation, compression, EQ, de-essing. It looks like this is kind of the same airy vocal preset that I was using on the verse. So yeah, not too much different there. Clarity VX. I don't normally reach for this thing. I wonder why I did in this case. I can hear a little bit of a difference. I think there was some sort of room noise or something that was irritating me that I wanted to get rid of. But honestly, again, another like late stage mix move, doing something that probably nobody is ever going to notice. And then instead of a traditional compressor, I've got a limiter on the end, and I am smashing the fuck out of it with that limiter. Because 12 decibels of compression on a limiter is way harder than 12 decibels of compression on a standard compressor. But this is something I started doing with my background vocals a little bit more recently, because I felt like I wanted more of a dynamic range and to still feel like the little transients slip through on my lead vocals. But with my backs, a lot of times I just wanted them crushed down where they feel like this one solid piece sitting behind the lead vocal. So I started using limiters instead of compressors on my backs a lot now, but I go back and forth on it. Background vocals are still one of the most difficult things for me to really say, oh, I like how that sounds in the end. And they always sound kind of weird by themselves, which they probably should, right? They're not lead vocals, they're background vocals. But yeah, so it's mainly those doubles, and then this is just me doing it an octave down. That same area vocal preset. I normally don't use the Slate presets, but clearly I was doing that a lot here. Little EQ rolling off some low end. Nice. I'll make sure I didn't miss anything in the chat. Little sidechain gating, little limiting. This guy right here is very well known. Distortion and saturation. I'm not using it very heavily on this. You might be able to hear there's just like a subtle bite that it adds to it that I was using it for. So that's hooks, lows, and then this. There's still a few tuning mistakes in that, I'm realizing. So whoops, should have spent a little more time on that. But you know, I feel like that always happens. There's always something I realize afterwards that I wish I'd tightened up a little more and done a little better. Same area vocal preset. I don't actually know what this is modeled after, and I've been getting much more into learning what the digital pieces are modeled after. But a lot of the Slate stuff, I'm like, I've never heard of before, and I don't know what this New York thing is modeled after, so I'm gonna have to go look that up afterwards. I don't normally reach for this one. It just came with this preset. But probably pretty much everybody in audio knows about Slate at this point, but I think they're dope and I love their products, and you should use them. Again, distressor, EQ, de-essing, kind of the same stuff on all the vocals, right? We just want to control it, and then we want to shape it, and then we want to get rid of, especially on a song like this, all of that harsh SE stuff, because that can really build up. But yeah, you stack all of those together. A.D.D, I can't be still and I'm not functioning. And then you stack it with the lead. A.D.D, I can't be still and I'm not functioning. Please don't let me be. And then in the later choruses, you'll have some more. I can't be still and That's like there's another harmony in there that you might hear that's like, it almost sounds kind of dissonant, and that was an intentional move. Like I wanted it to feel creepy. Kind of creepy, kind of spooky. That's what I was going for on this. Is it this? Might be that. These are probably wrong, by the way. These like third and fourth and fifth designations. If there's any like buddy with actually good pitch, I probably do. I probably need to spend a little more time brushing up on my music theory so that I can accurately hit notes without having to like guitar them out when I'm doing background vocals. But you know, can't have enough time for everything. I don't think there's anything else super interesting on the background vocals except for. So we've got the bridge. Oh, those are fun. I forgot about that. So the lead for the bridge looks like it has a lot of shit on it, actually. So that's tuning. Nectar is like neutron. It's just a little bit of sort of everything. Altar boy. Everybody loves this. So it's not pitching my voice, it's formanting it, which just sort of like means that it's getting it in a lower register, kind of like you're doing an impression of Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. But you can like really, jack that thing if you want, go super low. But the more you do it, it kind of gets harder to understand. So you got to keep it chill. Little EQ rolling off the low. SSL channel. I have the actual main brand SSL. What do you call it? Plugins, and I have their hardware controller, the SSL UC1, and I kind of swear by their ecosystem. It's dope. But the only reason that I still use this Waves brand one sometimes is it has this Chris Lord Algae preset for like filtered Vox or telephone Vox, and it just sounds some kind of way that I have been too lazy to dial in the settings on my like identical thing that I have here in front of me. So I have like a quick key to load up this. So if you take it off, and you throw it on. So it cuts out like all of the lows and all of the highs basically, and just sounds like you're on the telephone with somebody is kind of the idea. But yeah, these Waves versions have some pretty cool presets on them. And then this guy, another of the million Will Harrington recommendations, I think. It's also from Slate, but I hadn't really been using it until he recommended it to me. So this is turning up over the course of this time period. You'll see this thing move, and that's the amount of high frequencies that it's allowing in. So it's very slowly letting you have more. Yeah, okay. This is doing something, I forgot. So when it gets that sort of like brr, brr, brr sound at the end, that's actually what this thing is doing. And if you watch this little, can I get my mouse big? If you watch this little thing right here, you'll notice. It's getting bigger, basically, and it's getting more intense, so it starts out at nothing. But yeah, if you want to hear the comparison on this, where you've got nothing.
Can't eat, sleep, think, not functioning. Can't eat.
Not too offensive, but bland, you know. These were like a little last minute addition, actually. I think these were put on in the last, I want to say like couple weeks of working on the record after like all of the other vocals had just been finished. I just kind of felt like this bridge was a little bit boring.
I'll burn my bridges if you like the match. Don't need to know anybody else anymore. You make me sick and I'm in love with it. You can ruin my life, just don't make me bored. You drown my concentration in dopamine, and I can't focus now on any other thing. I can't eat, sleep,
These were kind of some interesting pre-chorus vocals.
concentration in dopamine, and I can't focus now on any other thing. I can't eat, sleep, think it's killing me. I'm a broken machine.
Honestly, those could have used a little more editing still. I'm still like working on my background vocal editing chops, like I said, but this was one of the first songs where I was trying to get my chops up with like harmony stacks and stuff like that, I think. So yeah, those are fun. Pretty standard stuff, really nothing worth breaking down on these, I don't think. No super duper cool effects. Just cutting a bunch of low, gating them really hard so you don't hear any of the spaces in between. This is probably that area vocal preset again. What are these? The counter melodies. Yeah, just getting rid of more lows and crushing it harder. So pretty standard stuff for those background vocals. I don't think there's really any big vocal moves in this verse too.
You can ruin my life, just don't make me bored. You drown my
This little fill right here, I think wins the award for thing that had its volume changed most times in the entire record, because I could not decide how loud I wanted it, and it definitely doesn't matter that much to anybody, but it was like very important to me, and I would just sit up at night like moving the fader very slightly up and down sometimes, because I was like, it's too quiet or it's too loud. I don't know what was wrong with me.
You drown my
This little subtle thing, the little stops, the concentration was like another thing that only got added from the last couple weeks of making the record. And it was kind of annoying because I hadn't planned for it, and then I thought of it and I wanted to do it, and I forget exactly I forget exactly how I did it, because I don't think I manually cut everything on the audio. I think I did some sort of mute group where I told something to mute, this group and this group and this group, but like that. I don't even remember on what level I did that now. But that's like not even the background tracks right now when we play it live. That's going to be, we're going to have to like work on getting that down for the live show, But I think it's fun, and I got complimented on it a lot after I added it. So I'm glad that I went through the trouble of getting it in. I called this the horror chop. It's been playing throughout in little instances, but there was all sorts of like fun choppy percussion stuff like this in the song. This is like ear candy gold to me. I don't even know what the original sample is supposed to be. Where's this from? It's whatever this is, a snare scream. Not a real fucking thing, right? But it sounds dope. This, yet another Will Harrington suggestion, if I remember correctly. If you want to make a hit record, you got to have a fucking submarine going off every every half note or whatever. It actually sounds dope in context though.
me be. You got me going. You got me going. A.D.D. I'll burn my bridges if you like the match.
Oh, something I got to highlight as well, actually, real quick on the guitar end. Most of the attention on the guitar in this song is on the solo that happens at the end. But another sort of last minute addition. So a lot of the instrumentals for this song were done before certain band members that are with us now were even in the band. But our guitar player Ewan really likes this song and was like, hey, I'd love to throw some cool guitar idea. I don't remember if he said he wanted to do it or if I asked him, but sometimes we play this stuff live, and even if like, you know, part of the part was something that I came up with, then they'll like embellish it. And so Ewan started doing these volume swells when we'd play it live, and he would like hit the guitar and it would be very reverby on his pedal board, but he would turn his volume all the way down or something like that, and so then he would be like, it would swell in, and he was doing it manually, and I was like, that sounds really fucking dope. Can you track me some of those for the record? And so he did, and I don't know exactly. Yeah, there we go. It's just stuff like that, and I think he sent them to me a little bit drier. Yeah, because I put all of this like you know, reverb shit on there. That's kind of how he sent them to me. If we get rid of the VSM too. Yeah, they're pretty try. So just little like swell things and transitions like that. And they're probably like a little quiet, honestly, right now. Just stuff like that. But he does these, he started doing these live, and now I was like, this has got to be on the record. That's dope. But when you put all of the sauce on them, this is that storage filter thing again, just rolling off some highs. I don't think it's moving this time. This is like Slate's all-in-one wonky, creepy effects package plugin that they do. It just makes stuff sound creepy. All of these knobs do something a little bit different. Dimension, motion, ice, heat, you know, it's not even musical terms, it's just like bullshit. That's just a delay that makes it kind of sound like it's like echoing out for you. Auto pan. I think that was just to give it a little bit of like movement from left to right. But yeah, you add all those things on, and it's sort of subtle in the background, but I think that they really bring the transitions together. It's kind of creepy. I fuck with it. I like it. So shout out to you and Minton for those. Those are fucking dope. He also doubled the brass on the choruses. It's just kind of subtle because it sounds very similar to the brass, and so it's a little bit tucked. But I'll go play those in a second as well. I know I'm jumping around a little bit. I'm trying to make sure that I didn't skip anything dope on verse 2. Cool little guitar here. I like creepy guitar tones. Let's see, raw, it sounded like this. That's super quiet. I know I have to like turn this up. It's probably just my Stratocaster, and I think it's getting sent to like an octave down in parallel or something. But when you put all of this shit on it, let's see, this is like a Fender, what do they call that? A twin reverb emulation. Pretty normal stuff. More just simulating an amp. This brings it into that sort of high mid telephone register, cutting off all the lows. This is more Alter Boy. It just makes it sound like not another guitar, you know, and I feel like I get bored with guitar tones a lot, so I'm always trying to do something that makes it sound like not just another guitar. Compressor. Doing compression. Go figure. Nothing interesting about that. This is throwing it back and forth between your ears. Movement makes shit interesting. Murder melodies again. Like all of these things just do a little bit to make it feel creepy, but it all adds up in the end, you know? This is a dual mono compressor, which is blah, 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 boring. Basically, it compresses the left and right channel individually. Not exciting, not the cool stuff. Boo. What am I doing here? You can see and maybe hear a little bit Ableton is starting to get angry at me because I've got a lot of shit unfrozen, so I'm gonna have to refreeze this in a second. So this is a, what do you technically describe micro shift as? It fucks with the sound. Go figure. It's doing, I think it's a chorus. You technically call it a chorus. So it's like taking a copy and then slightly detuning it and playing it at a very similar time, but not quite on. Then a little echo and then a little compression at the end to kind of smash it. And yeah, again, like I said, all of this stuff doing very subtle, but that's an interesting guitar to me. And then this, boo, not interesting, right? Is at least the way that I feel. The fuck is that? That's dope. I think that's me or you, and I'm not sure, like scraping the pick against the strings or something like that. Yeah, all sorts of little like filler things like that, just keeping it interesting in here. Because kind of like I said earlier, it's like the beat itself isn't that complicated. You just have to do little shit to fill in the gaps here and there. I added in like a little second grindy synth thing here. Just for, well, there's this. Again, background, like the type of shit that you wouldn't notice on its own, right? And then there's this. Fucking dope. Just because I was like, pre-chorus 2 has to be different somehow. That was kind of my idea for it, you know? I think there's technically a little more percussion in the drums too. Yeah, that thing are like. Oh, that's a dope fill. Okay, so this was kind of fun. I put an effect on the master for this, the master fader, which if you don't work in audio, is the channel that controls everything. So if you put something on the master, it affects everything basically. And I was trying to on an individual level at first. I was like, I want the whole thing to do like that DJ air suck that DJs do, where they're like, you know, and then it goes and expands fully out again. And I think I tried for an hour to do this, like, you know, the clean way of like, well, I'm going to go to every single instrument group and I'm going to do it individually on there to ensure that I'm not like, you know, that I have control over it. And I was like, this is way too much work. So then I got lazy and I just put it on the master. So this is an EQ and a distortion and a stereo imager, which controls like how wide things feel, just on the master fader. And they sit here for the entire song and do nothing until this 2 seconds. And then they turn off again and do nothing. And you'll watch them flick on here. And it just turns on to do that. It just turns on to go and bring it back out again. But I think it sounds dope. Sometimes they have the stems, but a lot of times they're just like using master effects for the whole thing. And so I tried to start approaching it like that a little more and just being a little more loose about like, yeah, I can just throw an effect on the whole master. That's fine. A couple more interesting things on the guitar here. We go guitar specifically. Creepy. I think might also be a Will Harrington suggestion or addition. I don't remember for sure because we were working on this record for so long. But definitely creepy, definitely cool. I'm not even going to unfreeze it. Doesn't matter what amp. Again, I'm making it sound so different than the amp normally would by like stripping all of these highs and lows off of it. But yeah, very creepy, very cool. What's that being sent to? Like I said earlier, I haven't really talked about any of these. These are my sends, my auxes. So these are all the things that are sort of like running in parallel to the tracks that they're being sent to. So like this is my super big reverb that I have going. But it's only in the background because if you played too much of that, it would just like drown out the whole track, you know? This is like a chorus. It's getting a little bit of that. Boom, 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 boom. That looks like it's delay or reverb just for the vocals. This is called snare verb, but isn't getting any of the snare. I don't know why that is. Another one of my famous moves. This just adds high frequencies. Oh yeah, so this is a way that I'll use Alter Boy that's a little different from the way I see other people use it, where I'll just have like one Alter Boy on a bus, on a send like this, and I'll just send a bunch of shit to it and kind of have it running in the background rather than like pitch shifting and committing different vocals or things. I'll just kind of have it open in the background and run it like that. Okay. Another reverb. There's a lot of different reverbs on this song. Oh, this is kind of cool. So this is a plugin called RBass and a preset on it called Small Speaker Prep. I am currently in the process of exploring upgrading my mixing setup because the speakers that I have right now are way too complementary to the bass, I feel like, in such a way where they don't give you an accurate representation of how your music is going to play back on a accurate consumer system. That is to say, there are notes that'll play on these speakers that if I've literally, with versions of this song actually, I've mixed a version of this song, taken it to the car and not been able to hear the bass because the frequencies that these things play are so low compared to what my car that doesn't have a sub can play. And that was generally a problem for this mix because it is so heavy on the low end with that big brass and those big 808 bass hits and the big kick drum. And so I had to sort of round that out. And so this thing, RBass, has a preset called Small Speaker Prep, and it does what it says. It literally prepares the noise for small speakers by sort of like accenting and saturating the sound within a region that most small speakers are going to play back bass effectively on. And so this is basically just like a parallel channel where anything that wasn't playing well on smaller speakers, I would just pipe it to this in the background. And so you get this sort of like phone speaker version of the song right here that's playing in the background. And if I needed more of those phone speaker frequencies, I would just turn this up, but it's really cranking. This was tape to saturate it a little bit more, make it sound like it was on a tape machine. And then this is like reinforcing like, yeah, I only want to hear these frequencies right here. This Paradevil. This is like a really hardcore, you've seen this a couple times before on other things that I've been showing off, and it's, in real life, this unit is called the Shure Level Lock, and it was a compressor that was designed for like public speaking, basically. It would make sure that if you had like a lapel mic or a lav mic and you were speaking in public, it would crush down the level of your audio to be super duper consistent, or what we would call over compressed. And so it was only really designed for like broadcast application like that. And then people realized that you could throw them on drums and it would like smash the drum, or vocals and it would smash the vocal. So they call it Devil Lock, but it's, you know, the original is Level Lock. But that's just my snare going to it in the background, it sounds like. Just kind of making it punchy and fat. But that's kind of what all of these are doing in the background, right? Just all these little things.
I can't be still and I'm not functioning. Business direction, please don't let me be. You got me going.
Oh, this was some really dope guitar right here. I think this might be like the exact same effect chain that's on the guitar solo that we'll cover in a little bit. I think this is the same chain. So this THE Slate thing is kind of my go-to for guitar processing, mostly because I don't have another go-to for guitar processing, and this is included with the Slate All Access package. But it's actually pretty good. I've heard love for it and I've heard hate for it. I know some guitarists, they're like, it's got the most realistic response out of any of the programs, and some that are like, this feels completely fake. I think this is copying a Mesa amp, I'm pretty sure. Chorus pedal, EQ, room verb. That can't be really what's making it that crazy. Oh no, this is the thing that's making it crazy. I think this is the big changer right here. Yeah. Okay. So this is kind of the guy in this A.D.D guitar tone, is this neutron exciter here, because without it, much more traditional sounding guitar tone. But this, if you turn it on, so this lets you do distortion only of specific frequency ranges. Oh my God, is it literally just, that's so funny. I didn't realize I had left this soloed. That's just the way that it was. I guess it was only playing these high frequencies. That's very funny, but it doesn't really sound that different changed. Anyway, long story short, what this is doing is it is using this scream direction on the like distortion style to only affect everything above like 1,000 hertz, and that's what gives it that sort of like digital harsh like scream on the top end. I mean, you'll hear if I get rid of this. Sounds like a traditional guitar, right? Throw it in. The first time I heard that, I was like, that's a fucking tone right there. That doesn't sound like other guitars. And I guarantee when we go look at the solo in a second, the guitar solo, this thing is going to be on there as well. But I love doing that to guitars because I just sort of get bored with traditional guitar tones, and I'm not really a guitarist, so I don't think like a guitarist, and I don't think like, well, we should put, you know, this thing that's designed to emulate like real effects on there. But I love that fucking tone. I could hear that all day, but I won't make you hear it all day. Let me freeze that real quick. Now I'm trying to get economical with it. Make sure that I don't leave too many things unfrozen at once, so we don't have to hear clicking and popping. Other than my knuckles. Also need to get a slightly better mic setup so I don't bump this thing and make extremely loud noises for everyone watching. Yeah, but the guitars just kind of get like subtly more complex as the song goes on. That's one of the things that we use to keep it interesting.
I can't be still and I'm not functioning. This misdirection, please don't let me be. You got me going A.D.D. Misdirection, please don't let A.D.D.
Okay, so the bridge, as per usual, is the section where I'm like, I'm bored of making this song and I don't know what the fuck to do. So let's get lazy and go on Splice. And that's exactly what I did, because that's how you make a dope bridge. And I found, I was like, all right, well, what if the kick just goes, you know, by itself for a second, and then we put like a loop over it. This is literally something from like some sort of doo-woppy sounding sample on Splice. In fact, let me just sort of, let's see what the sample unchopped sounds like, because I'm curious. I don't remember. So this is what it sounds like normal. I guess it's actually really not that different. I was thinking I had like reversed it a bunch or something like that, but I really didn't. I think I just chopped some of the the notes for some reason, and I'm really not even doing too much to it here. I just kind of got rid of some of those highs, got rid of some of the lows, and then OTT is like a 3-band compressor, so it compresses the high, mids, and lows separately and just kind of crushes the sound. I don't know how else to say it. But that's kind of the core of what makes the bridge. Gotten a lot of compliments on the bridge, but it's mainly that sample. I think I added a couple more things as time went on in the background. Yeah, this, like all of this here was like me being a lazy sound designer, and all of it is also additions from like the last month or so of making the record. So I would just, all of these are splice samples. I just go into splice and just fade in stuff like this in the background. But yeah, when you look at the actual number of things going on for this section, not that many. It's a lot of reverb, it's a lot of delay, it's a lot of spatial effects to make things feel bigger than they actually are. And when you're using that much reverb and delay and stuff like that, you don't really need all that many actual tracks going on at the same time. So that's actually an acoustic guitar right there, which I think is cool because it doesn't really sound like one. That's my Taylor that's back there. I don't know if you can see it on the camera right now. There's a guitar behind me in the chair over there. And I just like stuck that super close to the mic and distorted the shit out of it over time. You can hear like how badly it's recorded, really. Like you can hear as I distort it more, the creep up in the background. That's just like air conditioning noise. But it doesn't matter because it kind of fits into what it's doing. So if you hear the whole thing by itself, that's what it sounds like. And so we went, Jesus, that's a lot of OTT. You can already hear that AC noise creeping in. With 2 of them, it's gnarly. Wanted to bring some more of the lows out. I don't know how I got some of that to go away, actually. Let's figure that out. Oh, I see. It's just because I'm like cutting off all the high frequencies. So this is a little combo effect that I made that as you turn this knob up, it turns the distortion and the amount of high frequencies allowed through up at the same time. So you can see those high frequencies coming up here, and then this thing is the saturator is the distortion. And so they kind of like exponentially curve up over time. And so it makes it into this really cool build and not sound like an acoustic guitar at all. That's just delay, nothing fancy there. And then it just needed some volume on the end. But yeah, in context. All right, let's see here. Dumbest fucking guitar solo, man. I love that thing. All right, so I think this was, yeah, here you can see that neutron exciter here is here that I said would be here earlier. Just like screaming the hell out of everything above 1,000 hertz. And this, I believe, was directly inspired by that other thing in chorus 2. The so we had that first, And then I was like, man, that is actually such a dope tone. That's not enough of it. Like, we need more of it, just highlighting it as itself. And so that's where the solo was born. And it's very, very closely comped together, sometimes note by note. I mean, these are individual notes right here. Those are triplets. So this is like ba-da-dum, and then ba-da-dum, ba-da-da-da. But it sounds tight. But again, if you heard the guitar by itself, I feel like you can actually hear the mistakes more in it when you hear it unprocessed. The distortion kind of hides that a little bit. It sounds like Spanish guitar music or something like that when you play it without any of the distortion. Here, I'm going to turn it up a little for hearing it unprocessed. You can hear like mistakes in there, like there's an overtone. Kind of Spanish guitar-y vibes, but yeah, so this was a little volume boost on the beginning, right, gate. Then this, I think, is pretty much doing the same thing as the other one. Yeah, this is doing like a Mesa amp. Right, cool, traditional sounding, but not unique. Neutron exciter. That's what makes the fucking tone, you know? And I know I turned it up too loud now, so I don't remember what volume it's supposed to be. Too much lows in it though, too much like from amp noise and other shit, so we do this. That's getting rid of all this. There's like shit down there at you know, 50 hertz, 60 hertz. You don't need any of that in a guitar. What's this? This is a little bit of reverb before it goes to more reverb. And then this is just sidechain compression from the kick, because this tone is so obnoxious that it eats everything. And so the kick had to get it out of the way a little bit whenever it hit. I kind of faded it out here more in the final version of the record, but before I was just letting this little mistake hit because I thought it was funny. There was a version of the record where that was just in there, but the final chorus is so loud I don't even think you can hear it when it is in there. You can only kind of hear that in there, but yeah. The solo was not a last minute addition. It was there for a while, but what was a last minute addition is this kind of screamy vocal on the end. And I'm still not great at this style of singing, but I've been trying to get better at it. And let me find the part where that was more of a yell, not a scream, but then there is the scream, which is... Now, I have to say, I'm a little proud of myself because I did, like, hit that note. I was, like, maybe a little bit flat. And I did tune it slightly, but that was not complete fakey fake studio magic. I did actually hit that shining, which was very hard to do, and I'm sure I pissed my family off a lot when I was trying to hit it. But I don't think this sounds as cool without the effects on it. I'll go ahead and play it, but you know what? We gotta leave the tuning on though. I can't be still and I'm not functioning.
This Mr. Action, please don't.
So yeah, kind of screamy, kind of cool, and probably would have been too jarring and too much if it was in the foreground, but as something in the background.
You got me A.D.D. I can't be still, I'm not functioning.
You hear them together, these two. Kind of a cool harmony there. I like that. Was like accidental, not planned, but I was like, oh, that sounds tight. Right. You got me going. You got me going. A.D.D. Oh yeah, and then like no sound system can actually play this, but at the end of the song, where's the bass? The bass is so simple. Like the bass group is hard to find because it's so small. It's like really just the 808, and then this alternate version of it right here that plays at the end of the song, which is not actually any different, I don't think. What is different is this guy right here. Sometimes I do something almost as like a joke, like to make myself laugh. Like, oh, when I come back to this song next week to work on it, I think I'm going to have a chuckle at that idea. But then I either get lazy when I come back, or I didn't remember I did it as a joke or something, and it ends up staying in. And then near the end, I'm like, wait, why did I, that's ridiculous that I did this move. And so this is the 808 pitched like even an octave further down, which just doesn't even play. You might not even, if you're watching this on a phone or like not on headphones, you might not even hear this right now. It just sort of sounds like, a very distant explosion or thunder or something, and a lot of sound systems don't even play it. But that was like my first, well, I'll fix this later version of how I was going to end the song, and then it just stayed in. You got me going. A.D.D. Boom. So if you've got a dope car system, that would probably shake it pretty nicely, but other than that, it's pretty dorky sounding. I don't think there was anything super different in the drums for the end of it. I kind of wanted to do like a big fill here at one point, like, but it was just like, it's already so full on the end here. Yeah, that's where I was gonna do it. I was gonna do something really big here, and it was like one of the ideas where you try to make it work for an hour, and you're like, what am I doing? Like, I'm fucking with something that doesn't even need to be fixed. So I just went with that instead. Just like really simple, like, okay, drum beat stops and shoo. And I think that's a reversed gunshot noise right there. Yeah, that's what that is. If you reverse a gunshot, it's yeah, it looks like that's a shotgun going off. And that can give you some pretty good like sweep effects. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the fun stuff to show on the song is really like the little ear candy that you almost feel more than you hear. There's a lot of subtle stuff going on that isn't super overt, but I think that pretty much rounds out the stuff that I can think of. I don't think there's anything too different in the. I was doing a little something extra here. Let's see. Yeah, this is sort of like, I wanted this part to be louder, but there's not room for it. This is after I do that thing in the bridge with the acoustic. I was like, okay, that acoustic distorted is kind of cool. What if that kept playing something? And so you probably can't even hear this in the record, but underneath everything, there's this. Just a weird sounding acoustic guitar. If you took all this off, I don't even think that's a microphone recording of my guitar. I think that's the DI out of my Taylor, which doesn't sound great because no acoustic electric DI ever really sounds great. But I knew that I was going to fuck it up so much that it was like, all right, that's fine. I can, you know, I can just do the DI. There's our famous bend again. Oh yeah, so this I didn't really highlight before, but this is Ewan doubling the brass. Ewan again being our guitar player, he's doubling the brass on his baritone guitar, and he went through the Nolly Archetype plugin from what's that company, Neural DSP, because he loves all their guitar stuff, and with good reason. I don't have any of it, but it sounds dope, and I'm gonna need to get some. But very gnarly, very Darth Vader ass metal guitar. But you know, the kind of thing where it was hard to really bring out super thick because it's blending in with the brass so well. You think you'll notice it next time you play the song? Hopefully so. Hopefully they didn't compress it too much in quality for Spotify or anything. But yeah, I mean, like this guitar, I can't even hear this when I listen to the record, and I tried, because it does sound cool, and I tried bringing it out more, and it's like it can't be too loud because it's so similar to the brass in its tonal structure that if you try and bring one of them too loud, they just kind of start fighting each other. I was looking for the brass to solo them at the same time because that's kind of the problem that I was running into. Yeah, see, like watch this, you play them together. It's cool, but they fight each other or almost like blend in with another to some extent. So it's hard to distinguish them as individual parts, but still a cool addition for sure. And Ewan's guitar sounds fucking awesome. So we're gonna need to just like take that tone and do something on it, another song without the brass. But yeah, I think that pretty much sums up the breakdown, honestly. If anybody has anything else that they would like to, you know, have me go check out or focus on, or any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. The lyric writing for this was done like so long ago, and as I said at the beginning of the stream, it was me and a co-writer had basically a collection of lyrics that had been rejected from other songs because they didn't have like a narrative contribution to any of the songs. It was just like slick lines, like in rap music, it's what people call like punchline, like just like, you know, clever shit, stuff like that. And then, so we had this like trash pile of these lines that didn't actually serve any other purpose other than like, our songwriter egos because they felt clever. And so we were like, why don't we make a song out of all of those like discarded lines? And then sort of fill in the gaps between them. And so that was the first version of this lyric. And again, it was like a completely different sounding song. It was this like disco funk kind of thing. And the disco funk thing didn't end up staying, you know, cool to me, but the lyric did. And me and Jeff were like, yeah, these are really dope lines. These are really dope lyrics. So we got to do something with them. And then after Will's suggestion, we ended up putting it on this instrumental instead. But yeah, I can't honestly say that there was like, you know, super like deep inspo for the lyrics on this. It really was kind of like a bunch of rejected lines from other songs that we put together to form this thing, and then sort of loosely built a story around that. But it's one of my favorite lyrics, actually. It was like a really fun Lego kit to put together of reject lines from other stuff. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you tuning in and watching, and I hope that I will see everyone on another one soon. So appreciate it. Peace out.